Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karam. And can I just let the gentlemen out there know, we do care. We might say we don't want anything. We care. Come through. It's my best advice. You ready to do this, gentlemen?
Yes. Let's move on to sports.
Okay, coming up, the one and only Magic Johnson will be right here in studio. How would he bring back the glory days of the Lakers? We'll ask him that. And you do not want to miss Stephen A. and James Harden going one-on-one. It's today, folks. It's later in the show. Please, I can't wait. Yes.
I forgot all about it.
You should have seen him in Houston, by the way.
Extra butter salt.
Could y'all please turn the channel? Do not watch me with James Harden, please.
This has been like your nightmare for a week now.
I forgot all about it. I forgot that was today because Magic is in the air. I forgot that.
Yeah, that too. It's going to be good. Let's do it.
James Harden.
Let's get you guys up to speed on the latest with the Knicks. So Stephen A. was working the phones quite a bit yesterday and has some interesting developments that he will share with you here first. Charles Oakley remains banned indefinitely from Madison Square Garden. But there has been some momentum toward a resolution between Oakley and Knicks owner James Dolan. Here's part of a statement that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver issued regarding this disheartening situation. In an effort to find a path toward New York Knicks owner Jim Dolan, Charles Oakley and I met today at the league office along with Michael Jordan, who participated by phone. Both Mr. Oakley and Mr. Dolan were apologetic about the incident and subsequent comments and their negative impact on the Knicks organization and the NBA. Mr. Dolan expressed his hope that Mr. Oakley would return to MSG as his guest in the near future. Stephen A., what is going on here?
Well, Adam Silver and Michael Jordan basically, I mean, you can call it an intervention if you want to, but James Dolan, Charles Oakley, and Adam Silver met at the league office. Michael Jordan was on the phone. There were no lawyers involved. Michael Jordan spoke up on behalf of Charles Oakley, just trying to remedy the situation for what I've been told. And essentially what it comes down to is this. You want to do everything you can to avoid it becoming a legal matter. Oakley had intimated that he wanted to have a press conference, that he was entertaining legal action because of the things that were said about him, which he obviously feels, and adamantly so, is false. Michael Jordan confirmed that. According to my sources, he said he is not an alcoholic. He's a social drinker, just like a lot of us are. And so he made that clear to James Dolan. At the same time, James Dolan had some credence with his argument because they do have a video that we haven't seen, a video that is a little bit more incriminating than what Oakley would have led us to believe.
This video is about Oakley's behavior leading up to security getting him?
Correct. And so as a result, if it were to turn into a legal matter, it may not be as cut and dry as Oakley would have us believe. In any event, James Dolan made it very clear, according to my sources, that he doesn't want to, move forward with any kind of legal action or whatever the case may be. Security, who Oakley was seen putting his hands on in the videos that we've all seen, James Dolan is willing to make sure that that gets squashed as well. And his whole thing is that, listen, I don't know Charles Oakley. They've never even met. They never had a conversation ever before yesterday. And so Dolan's whole thing is that I'm the owner of the New York Knicks, and the only time I hear anything about you or from you is when you're going off about me in the papers and in the press. Oakley wants to be a part of the Knicks family. He would like to be a part of that inner circle that Dolan ultimately takes care of. And Dolan's mindset is that that's something that could potentially be worked out, but, you can't turn around and do that and then turn around and you're in the papers insulting me. And so as a result, no definitive resolution was reached, but Michael Jordan, in concert with Commissioner Adam Silver, were all about moving forward. Dolan is about moving forward. Charles Oakley, who I spoke to last night, was not about that completely. His whole thing is that he needed a few days to process it because he's still stung by the fact that he was called an alcoholic, which he adamantly and emphatically swears is not true. He's sensitive to the fact that family members, including his mother, were highly upset with what Dolan had to say. And his whole thing is, it's one thing for us to do things in private. It's another thing entirely to do it publicly. Not to mention the fact that when you've got Sprewell and Larry Johnson and about 11 to 12 other dudes that all show up at the Garden conveniently this past Sunday, you're trying to give the impression that you don't have a problem with anybody. And Oakley's mentality is, well, then why do you have a problem with me? Why am I going through this nonsense? And so that's where they are right now. But they are moving forward. They're not trying to move back. It's just that Oakley has not been as forward-thinking in this process as they would like him.
Real quick, Stephen A. and Max, before we want you to weigh in. This potentially incriminating video, so this will not see the light of day unless legal matters are pursued.
Well, I don't know if it's extreme per se, but the video itself does give credence to the argument that Dolan and them was making that Oakley didn't come in there like a quiet mouse, and did absolutely nothing before it happens. No, it will not be made public to my knowledge.
James Dolan would have us believe that he was trying to essentially stage an intervention for Charles Oakley, who he publicly questioned, as I don't think any owner of a business should do about a former beloved employee, publicly questioned his mental health and substance issue existence, or questioned the existence of a substance issue. That apparently it doesn't exist. So he acted as though he'd have us all believe that he was staging an intervention for Charles Oakley. What's actually happened here, according to your reporting, Stephen A., here on First Take, is that the NBA has staged an intervention for James Dolan. That's really, whatever Dolan's saying, he said, she said, the whole thing, the existence of a video, Dolan doesn't want it to go to court, she wants to move forward and everything, etc. Let's look at the big picture, what's actually happening. Hey, I'm basically staging an intervention for this guy. The league steps in and says, no, we're staging an intervention for you. This is a bad look for the league. It's a terrible look for the New York Knicks.
That's a great point.
Is it a good look for Charles Oakley? No. He's scrapping with security. There are 5 or 6 guys around him. All that kind of, he gets arrested afterwards. None of that stuff looks good for Oakley. But it looks so much worse for the team and therefore the league that people everywhere, Dan Le Batard was on SportsCenter right before us this morning. I'm with Oakley. I mean, the overwhelming sentiment around basketball and around the sports world is Oakley got done wrong by an organization and an owner, especially, that's power crazy and out of control.
True. But here's where Oakley has to be careful. Dolan did throw out an olive branch. Dolan is open to Oakley coming back to Madison Square Garden. Dolan is open to ingratiating himself with Oakley a bit further so Oakley can feel the way that he wants to feel. Because Dolan acknowledges that, because Dolan has said so in front of while Michael Jordan was on the phone in front of Commissioner Adam Silver, and Commissioner Adam Silver and Michael Jordan were witnesses to this conversation, you don't then turn around, if you're Charles Oakley, and say, damn all that, blah, 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 blah. Because then now Dolan could wash his hands of everything and he would be justified. So even though at times Dolan doesn't come across as the brightest candle on the birthday cake, let's be clear, at the same time, he is being smart about this.
And Oakley does, look, it's not a stretch for people to imagine, hey, if you never met Charles Oakley, you think he might be a stubborn dude? You ever watch him play basketball? Yes. See 5 bodies around him? He was the one who came out with the loose ball. Of course, you have to have a certain amount of hard-headedness, metaphor, not just literally to get that ball. But it's interesting you bring up Oakley's desire to be a part of the organization and maybe feeling shunned led to his public critique of Dolan. Sure, that may exist. And a thing I don't like about what Dolan's doing is if he is seen as magnanimous, simply because he's in a position of power, he will welcome Oakley so long as there's no criticism of him or the organization. That seems like a fair barter in terms of the truth of the matter, but in terms of the way people are conducting themselves, you feel like telling Dolan, yeah, dude, you have the power so you can insist on that, but all you're really bartering is access in exchange for no criticism.
But listen, I spoke to Oakley. I've known Oakley for 20 years, and I got a lot of love for Charles Oakley. But let's be clear, in fairness to James Dolan in this particular instance, the fans can feel any way they want to. Oakley is different. Oakley is a former player. Now, if you just want an apology and you want to move on with your life, that's one thing. But Oakley, at least through reports, has given the impression that he wants more than that. Oakley I even get taken aback when I hear Charles Oakley say, I don't understand why the guy doesn't like me. I just want to figure out why, blah, blah, blah. That's not the Charles Oakley I know. The Charles Oakley I know could give 2 cents how you feel about him. You could go kick rocks. So why do you care? Chances are you care because in some capacity you want to be employed by this man. Now, he hasn't openly admitted that, because I have asked, and he hasn't openly admitted that. There's no question in my mind, however, that that's what he wants. You want to sit up there, and because he's taking care of other players who are less storied in Knick lore than you are. So if they're getting a paycheck from the billionaire, why can't Charles Oakley get a paycheck from the billionaire? And if that's what your mentality is, I'm assuming, I don't know, but if that's what Charles Oakley's mentality is, Max, then the question does beg, it's one thing for the fans to be insulting to James Dolan, but James Dolan is under no obligation to pay people who are going to then turn around and insult him. That's just not smart.
That is true, but
that's what Charles Oakley has to remember.
I want to contextualize that a little bit, though, because I had lunch with a Knicks legend one day. I won't mention his name here. On the day of the decision, where LeBron went to Miami, and everyone in New York was very upset about it.
Yep.
And this legend was talking about the fact that the Knicks don't trade on their past, specifically those 2 championship teams from the late 60s, early 70s. And my point was, look, Bill Bradley ran for president. Everyone went on to do these big, great things. Maybe the Knicks feel everyone's too busy or intimidated. Who knows? And they said, no, we've all let them know. We want to come back. Trade on your history. Make us a part of this thing. And at the time, the Knicks simply didn't seem interested. So that's the broader context of this organization, which has not done a very good job, although Dolan personally has done well by certain players in terms of employment and loyalty to those players. But the overall kind of overarching story of the Knicks as it relates to their past is they don't seem to embrace it very much.
They don't seem to embrace it too much, but then in fairness to the New York Knicks, how many organizations employ as many former players as the New York Knicks do? I don't know the answer to that question, but the Knicks have dared me to find out. So obviously they're very confident that in comparison to their contemporaries, that they do right by their former employees, more so than they're given credit for and more so than other organizations. If that is true, then you're Oakley. You have to think about that when it comes to talking about Knicks in the future.
So let's pretend Oakley